me show you guys how to make an elastic casing. That's what this is at the top of this blouse. Basically, I'm going to show you how to make the area where the elastic goes through. Now, this is a top. If I wanted to, I could pull this down to the waist. So whether you are making an elastic casing, which holds the elastic to where here or at the waist, it doesn't matter. This is going to be a short video showing you how to do that. Okay, you guys, now here is this top that I made. This is the top, of course. And what that piece of fabric is, to me, I put that there to represent the back of the top. So again, this is turned inside out to give you an idea of what a casing looks like that's going to hold your elastic. Now, this is the top, of course, and this is the bottom. So this could be a top, or if I wanted to, as long as it'll fit my waist properly, I can slide this down to make it a skirt. Say, for instance, if I were to use this elastic in this casing, this elastic is 1/2 of an inch in its width, which means from here to here, the width has to be minimum and 1/2 inch because you're gonna want it to fit. So that's pretty much the only error that you could make when you make like a housing for your elastic, or it's called a casing for your elastic, is if it's not wide enough, the elastic won't fit. But say, for instance, I'm using this elastic in this casing. So again, minimum from here to here, it has to be minimum 1/2 an inch in width because this has to fit through it. So that's pretty much the only error. It has to be minimum from here to here, 1/2 an inch, and a little bit over 1/2 an inch depending on the width of your elastic because you're going to want it to fit through there properly. Now, this is the finished top, but let's pretend with this white piece of fabric here that this is the new top or skirt that I'm getting ready to make. So this is the top, this is the bottom, these are the two sides. So the first thing you're going to do with your fabric, and these are two pieces of fabrics, of course. Now the fabric's going to look like this. They're going to be turned with the right side out. So you're going to start sewing your seams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the machine. I'm going to sew this side seam, and I'm going to sew this side seam. Okay, so now I am about to sew my two side seams. Get ready to make my elastic casing at the top of this, either blouse or it's going to be a skirt. So let me start sewing this, and I'll be back in a minute when this is finished to show you. Now this is already sewn. Now remember, this is my side seam, this is the top, and this is the bottom. But first, we're only working on the casing. So from here to here, that line right there is approximately 1/4 of an inch. It could be less. It does not have to be perfect. It could be less. In other words, it could be, look, that's about 1/8 of an inch from the side of that, or it can be either one of these lines. If the garment is too big, you're going to want to increase your seam allowance. But again, from here to here, the standard seam allowance is approximately 1/4 of an inch. So we will continue because now that's what I've done. I've sewn my two side seams. Now, if you're sewing on the machine, you're going to want to whenever you're sewing period, you're going to want to back stitch at the very end to reinforce the seam so that it doesn't come loose. If you're sewing this by hand, you're going to want to reinforce your 4 corners so that it doesn't come loose as you finish making your garment. Remember, you've got your seams. This is the top, remember? So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to want to iron this down. Approximately this width from here to here is about 1/4 of an inch. So you're going to go all the way around. See how this is ironed all the way around. Let me keep turning this until we get back to the top. That way, this is ironed all the way around to approximately 1/4 of an inch. Once you folded the initial 1/4 of an inch, approximately how much you fold from here to here depends on the width of your elastic. So remember, this elastic is 1/2 an inch. So I'm going to fold this down. Okay, now this is the second fold. From here to here, this width is approximately 1 inch because remember, this is 1/2 inch elastic. So it's pretty much common sense, you guys. This has to fit through here. See how it fits? Yes. So you're gonna iron this down approximately one inch all the way around. Let's just say for practice sake, that's the front and this is the back. So I'm going to sew this all the way around except for here to here. I am not going to sew because you have to be able to thread your elastic through there. Okay, now I have sewn this all the way around. Can you see the black thread? Let's just say for practice purposes, this is the front of the top or the skirt. Let's turn it over to the back. Remember, I said you leave an opening approximately maybe 2 inches. Now, you're going to want the opening usually in the back of the garment or on the sides, preferably the back. You don't want that opening in the front because once you thread the elastic through there, you're going to close that up. But let's finish the last part of the video. I'm going to thread the elastic through and show you the rest. Now, in terms of how you sew that, see how that line is really close to that fold line? And also, too, you're going to want to iron this. This is the back. You're going to want to iron your casing front or back, and you're going to want to iron this before you insert your elastic. Now I have pinned the safety pin to the end of the elastic, and I'm going to thread it through my casing. Okay, now these are both ends of the elastic. See that black line? That's sewn down, and I really reinforced it with a lot of back stitching because, or if you're hand stitching the ends of the elastic, both ends of the elastic together, really reinforce it. You don't want to be wearing your garment. All of a sudden the elastic pops and ooh, you giving the people in public a free show that they didn't even pay or ask for. Okay, now my elastic is all the way through the casing. So now I'm going to go on the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch between these two dots because you have to finish enclosing the elastic within the casing. Okay, now I have stitched on the sewing machine. So now make sure that when you sew, you do not sew over the elastic. So that's it. This is the back of whatever this would be, the dress, a blouse, whatever this would be. This, remember, you're going to want the opening in the back. So this is finished. How you make it elastic casing, and this would be our imaginary front. Remember, top, side. Doesn't it look like a skirt? Now, say for instance, if this were a skirt or a blouse, you've sewn the side seams, you've got the top. This will be the bottom. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to take the iron, you'd have to fold this down about 1/4 of an inch, and you would fold it again. Now the width from here to here is depending on how long you want the garment. So again, that's it. You got your 4 seams, you got your top with your elastic casing, you got your side seams finished, and again you'd have to finish the bottom. So just iron that down approximately 1/4 of an inch or more, again however you want this dang length, and then you would iron it again, and then you would sew that seam. Now to me, in terms of the total length, what my favorite thing to do is, say for instance I want it at the bottom, this bottom seam total length, because I've measured from here to here. Say for instance, whatever the length was, I would iron this down first, then I would go back and iron this, and then sew all the way around. Hopefully you guys, I made that simple. Go out and create something beautiful.